What's up? What's going on, everyone? Ben Spicer welcoming you all into another episode of the Scouts Radar. And I've got three scouts from across the state of Texas joining us, of course. Guys, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's been going on over the last week for y'all.
Just moving around. You know what it is. You know what I'm saying? The Scouts life, the Scouts radar, trying to get eyes on these kids and having fun at the same time.
Too
Absolutely.
much
Watching a
fun.
lot of
Too much
upsets.
fun.
Shit, watch a lot of upsets is what we're watching. A lot of what we thought coming into the season was going to happen did not. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, you look for these guys to have week one and maybe make some adjustments if they didn't have such a good game, or if they had a great game, capitalize on those things, right? Play on the key factors that got you the victory. And week two hit and it was ugly. Here we are on three and it's just like, everything's shaky ground. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of the season.
Hey man, I forget that. Forget that, y'all. Mike throwing salt. Mike throwing salt. Y'all listen later on. R.L. Martin, I'm calling it right now. Mike's throwing salt. Y'all listen later on. Y'all gonna see what he's talking about.
Oh, hey man, like I said, straight up honesty. It's the truth, man. You call it like it is. If film don't lie, right? We say all the time, film don't lie. And
Nah,
that goes
Man,
for
I'm
coaches
telling you.
too.
Yeah, because y'all know that cup is always full when the wind's blowing from the south.
here's the thing that I saw with two different games this week we just got to talking about this before we came on camera, before we started recording. Uh, we're going to talk about a guy that the coaches, they make a point to get him the ball. How do you let your best player not get touches on either side of the ball? If this guy is must see, if this guy is your best player, how do you not feed him? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm Bill Belichick. I'm not saying I'm Tom Landry, but with your own eyes, I'm looking at it. I toss my clipboard down. Why this man don't have the ball? You know what I'm saying? It's just,
Man, it's preaching.
I'm not naming anybody in particular, but sometimes you got to put your egos out the side and let these kids eat. They want to get scouted. We got to see it. And so, that's just my little tidbit right there. It's something I've been thinking about the last 2 weeks. I want to eat. You know what I'm saying? Let's eat buffet style. If I'm gonna go all in, then I'm gonna grub hard. But that's just my thing, my two piece.
Right.
Let's get started, B Spice.
Ooh.
I love it.
Jesus. We are hot this
Well,
week.
Oh my goodness.
you guys know how it works. We've got four names for you this week that stood out to us last week and over the course of the season so far. A couple weeks into Texas high school football now. And we start with a defensive lineman from Southside, Cody Wilkerson.
All right, y'all. Cody Wilkerson, I want to preface this off by saying y'all need to go look at this kid's film. Cody Wilkerson, he's 6'2", 245, 250 pounds, D lineman at Southside High School here in San Antonio, Texas. Couple quick notes on Cody because he's the type of athlete that you definitely want to go to the evaluation sheet and start just checking boxes because, okay, the kid got quick movement in and out of his blocks. When I tell you he takes on a block, he gets off of that block and attacks the football. That's exactly what he does. Leverage is something that you can tell that he has worked on hard. He's so strong when he comes out of his stance, getting up under those linemen and moving them around and getting away from them is just excellent. He has the ability to dominate an offense. He can push a pocket. He also plays above average with his hand technique. I want y'all to pay attention to that when you look at his film. Look at the hand technique that he displays. And he's a sure tackler. And the one thing that I love about Cody is, besides his hand technique and his leverage, is this kid is straight up mean. He is straight mean with it, man. He does not hold anything back. And it's like he's facing off against his enemy that's in front of him. And the thing is, I got to go past you and I got to make this tackle. Cody does everything that he's supposed to do, everything. He checks all the boxes on the list. Why is it that this kid has no offers right now? 6'2", 245, dominant D lineman. I don't know, but I've heard through the grapevine this past week that that's about to change. Like I told y'all, Scouts Radar, we're in tune with coaches. They are watching. Just to let you know, Cody, keep your phone on.
One thing I'm going to say though is I agree with like 99% of that, right? And I say that to say this. Cody is super aggressive, incredibly talented kid, and I have not seen him take plays off. Huge plus. Huge plus. He is very good with his hands. He's great with his hands. He knows when to create that separation. He knows what to do with his opponent. Lack of a better term, when he's done with him, he knows how to discard his opponent, right? He knows. The one thing that I think may be a knock, if anything, maybe lack of a better term, he stands up. He's vertical. And as a big man, you're 6'2", and you're in the trenches with guys that are going to be 6'4", 6'5". And your first reaction, low man wins, right? But when you're 6'2", you're fighting trenches, you cannot afford to stand straight up. If you go against a stout 6'4" O-lineman, he's going to own you every time, because once he gets his grasp on you, you're vertical. You're only going to go back. That's one thing Cody has to work on. He has to sit there and get in the trenches, be able to use his hands, create the separation, get rid of it, but do it from a lower position. When you look at his film, the only knockout on him, he comes straight up, and you don't have a whole lot of leverage. Right? You can't control yourself when your back is in an arch like that. You got to stay low, you got to stay squared, and keep him chopping to get by. That's the only thing I think he needs to work on. Other than that, every attribute you name is spot on.
Yeah, I second that, Mike. That was the only thing. If I had to pick apart something, it was just the leverage thing. When you get guys like this who's so strong and powerful, they tend to lose it being so aggressive, over aggressively, that they lose their technique, and stop being technical sound because they're used to, manhandling undersized or understrength guys at the high school level. Now, translate to the next level, he'll have to get, his D-line coach, and they'll break this down in practice, and they'll put him underneath some tires where he's just constantly staying low, footwork and things like that. His 5'10" is pretty quick, but how does he do when he's flowing, from side to side? I don't. Watching the film, I don't know if you guys might remember this, Mike and RL. It might be a little bit past Ben, but Chris Zorich used to play for Notre Dame. Was kind of this kind of player, very disruptive. Good feet. But Zorich, always won at the line. He might have been undersized, maybe like 6'6'1". But back in those late '80s, early '90s Notre Dame teams, he wreaked a lot of havoc by using that kind of technique. If you take go back and look at some of that. Look at Aaron Donald, the perfect specimen as far as not being a big guy, but Aaron Donald is always low. You know what I'm saying? And that goes where these guys that wrestle now here in the state of Texas have an advantage over a guy that's super tall, because they're used to grinding at a level, bending at the hips. This guy is so strong that he just beats most guys, and he's a terror down there. That's the reason they have him playing the nose or two technique, three technique, where he's whooping that center's head every play. That's going to wear on you after 4 quarters, in a highly contested battle. He's winning these contests right now. So, I hope he does get that offer, because it's definitely warranted, man. He definitely should have been on the Scouts' radar, and I like that pick.
Yeah, and you got to look at it too. Look at it too, though. Warren Sapp, right? 6'2", 300 pounds, but he was known for making himself small.
Right.
Three technique. He was known for making himself small, and it worked to his advantage every single play. And he
even a guy like Ndamukong Suh might be a little bit taller, but his motor Ndamukong Suh is a technically sound guy. If you go back and look at some of his even back to Nebraska, I mean, his hand fighting and things, but he stayed low. You can't give up, like you said, and, a lower guy that's a little bit stronger than he'll face probably if they make it to the playoffs. That's a little bit more technically sound. You can't run up to Cibolo, Steele, and Judson with those kind of linemen and stand straight up like that, because you're giving up all this, and you know what I'm saying, if you're drinking a lot of water, your belly gonna bust. So you understand, you got to stay low.
Hey,
I
well, I
like
want to
that.
say this. I had this on at the end. Cody, I know you're going to watch this. I want you to take all of this information that we're giving you and apply it to your game. Think about it. Think about everything that Mark said. Think about everything I've said and everything Mike has said. Apply this to your game to make you that much better. Take this constructive criticism and make sure you apply it, son. And I'm telling you, sky's the limit for you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, guys just watching this, man, it's just to benefit you to get better. You know, nobody's knocking anything because each one of us has a different perspective. I mean, we see the things different. That's why you get 4 different views. You know that. So you'll come full circle when you take it back. Go back and look at the tape. You say, "Oh yeah, you know what? I could have had my hands here. I could have worked that. You know, my pad level can be lower." Because you know you're a bull, dude. You know
Yeah.
how to get past somebody, and you know you slanging people like they slang Whoppers at Burger King. It's just they're not having it your way, you doing it your way. So definitely my guy, keep doing it down in SA. I like it.
It's
Right.
that slanging waffles. I got it. Ain't having it your way. All right,
It's good
Defro,
stuff.
it's on you, Defro.
Hey, I know one thing we do every week before we start recording, we catch up, talk about stuff, but a lot of us look at the highlights again to kind of review and study before we get started. And you guys were talking in the meeting room before we got going. Khamari Terrell, man, his his highlights speak for themselves.
The thing I like about Khamari is his hips, right? It's the way he moves in space, the way man, there's so many things you can sit there and knock off on the list and say this kid's got, like RL said, checking the boxes, right? Well, he's a sure tackler. We know that. He's got a great nose for the ball, so he's ball hawk ability. Definitely not afraid of contact. He's going to shoot downfield, and he's going to make that tackle. But we talked about it before, right? When he comes down here to make that tackle, he's easy to get baited as well. So he's got to be able to keep that in the back of his head, that come in full stream, but you got to keep an eye on what everything's going on because it's easy to get tunnel vision, right? What I do like, though, is he plays the run very, very well. It's almost like he's a linebacker that's been moved further back. He's got great skill level at linebacker. Couple technique things they need to work on in off season. I'm not sure if he trains with any one particular trainer, and it's not a negative to the trainer that if he does train with somebody that it's not on the trainer, but just like most trainers, at some point you can only do so much with that athlete, and you have to send him to the next person. And that's kind of what I'm seeing is if he does train with somebody, it's time for him to move to another trainer because there's certain aspects of his game that he's missing. What I need to see more of him is to become more versatile in man coverage. I haven't seen a whole lot of it, and what I have seen, kind of some hindrances there. He does play receiver as well, so it shouldn't be difficult for him if somebody teaches him the techniques on what to key in on. I think it's an easy changeover for him. But man, this kid's explosive. You look at him, and he's sitting at 6'2", 170. His 40 time sitting at a 4.43. I mean, you look at the checklist, and it's all there. And you ask yourself, right, why doesn't he have more offers other than Baylor? There's always a reason why an athlete doesn't have it. Maybe it's the exposure level. Maybe it's the way he put his film together. I don't know. All I can tell you is that when I saw his film, I was impressed, but I also saw some things that he needed to work on. So there's just the recruitment process, man. It's all encompassed of film, attitude, collectiveness. When you go to see someone play, it all kind of ties together. You got to be able to do what we see you do on film. We all get it. Highlights are highlights, and they're just that, the highlights. But is it repeatable? Can I see it in gameplay? Or is it just hype? I don't know. But I like this kid. Khamari Terrell, I like him.
He's the type of kid that throws his body in there. He doesn't care. That's the mentality he has. And like you said, Mike, he could be, he could translate to a blitzing linebacker, at the next level, standing at 6'2" and 170. When he gets in the program, wherever he decides to go, structure, eating right, a great program. This guy, if he redshirts and comes back as a redshirt freshman, has, all conference freshman All-American type ability coming from the safety position. I think that's where he's going to make his money at. Long, rangy, long arms. He really wants to come and let you know that and tell you about it. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that he's giving you 12 reasons every time that he comes downhill that you don't want to come back. He brings the hat. He lays the wood. He must be a lumberjack, off the field because he's bringing it.
One thing I'll add about it, man, is that the frame is there. You're 6'2", you're 170. That can easily, working from now until your freshman year, be 190. You hit that weight room, you eat right. Long kid, long stride. I see Khamari really making his money at the safety spot. He could be an outside linebacker. That could too, depending on the program he goes to. And when you talk about Baylor, I can really see that. But I really think that if he dedicated himself to, shout out my boy Coach Flight, with a trainer like Coach Flight, working on his hips, his footwork, all of that. If he worked with somebody like him, I mean, look at Jalen Jones at A&M. He's 6'2", almost 6. I might as well say 6'3" now, and came in at about 185. Now the boy's pushing 200, but came in as a DB. That's what coaches are looking for. They're looking for that big DB, and I think he has the potential to do it. He has all the intangibles. He just got some things that he's got to tweak, and he could be that next big DB.
Next up, we have a kid who I got the chance to see last Friday, and he had a clip that's kind of gone viral, but that clip, or else shaking his head, we'll put it on the screen for you. But I think that clip shows his best quality as a receiver, and it's his physicality. I mean, he has absolutely lit up the teams that Rockwall has faced this season. And Rockwall, man, don't sleep on them. They've got a good squad. I think they can make some noise come playoff time.
Okay, this is why I'm finna go on my state rant here, because a couple years ago, there was a Rockwall receiver that's going to be a first-round pick, most likely, coming out of Ohio State with Chris Olave and all those guys. Texas schools, why you not in Rockwall? This kid is 6'3", 205, and he's a grown man with it. He's 12 for 245 and 4 tubs last week against some good competition. All right. You don't need the scouts radar to tell you that this kid is the real deal. Just turn on the tape.
Watches.
I'm saying, from the untrained eye, if you just watch it for touchdowns, he had 4 TDs. You know what I'm saying? 4. And this was against top flight competition. They get him the ball. He's featured. He's got everything that you want. He's in the class of 2023. That means he's coming back to terrorize you another year. So what else do you need to do? This another year of this guy. I mean, really, Texas schools, get on this guy. I don't know, how many offers he has, but looking at the tape, I'm betting it 10 or more. Gotta be. I could put that in Vegas if you need to. This guy is the real deal. Big, physical. I believe he's one of my guys. Shout out to Margin Hooks. He's sky's the limit. Wide receiver. He was, I think, out of all the guys, shout out to my guy Cody Bridges over there, was on the list this week for Coach Hooks. He's makes some noise over there. Braden Locke gets him the ball, has a pretty deep ball if you watch it, man. I mean, these guys will be around, third, fourth round. So we'll start to see them late when it gets cold, and we got to put those big old winter jackets on to come outside.
Get the winter jackets on.
Rockwall is going to be around. You need to see this guy. Get it.
Hey, I want to say something, Rick. I'm going to jump in here right quick because, first of all, Ben's going to put that highlight up there. I retweeted it, but, man, that's what happens when you don't bring it and you run up on somebody 6'3", 205. Y'all see it. Y'all see it. You see it.
Disrespectful.
You see it. I'm telling you, but I wanted to put this on y'all's mind. He's 6'3", 205 now, and he's just a junior.
Right.
So he's got an off season to go through. He's got another off season to go through. He's got another summer to go through. Training, whatever it is. What do y'all think? He's 6'3", 205. Has he played any defense? Do y'all know? Does he play any defense?
As far as I can see, he's a wide receiver, man. I mean, he's got no, he runs great routes. He's got the quick feet. He's got the stop and start gear that you need out of a receiver. The particular play we're speaking of was kind of a stop and go. And the DB just kind of got out of position. And when he turned back around, he was in his face. There was nothing else he could do about it. Better
standing on the train tracks.
Well, better technique by the DB. He doesn't, get so manhandled. But I mean,
don't lose your ground.
Right, and that goes back to being technically sound. But that also had, from a defensive perspective, train your eyes a little better. Watch his hips instead of watching his movement. We guys pay attention to all of these jukes and stuff. We always train your eyes to watch his hips. Get hands on him.
Ain't going nowhere.
Right, but this guy plays at another level than the average defensive back at the high school level sees. He's elite right now. So I mean, it's not a lot of wins against this type of talent. Defensively, you have to surround him and get hands on him early.
But one of the things
making money at both levels.
It's all about you guys could both be on both sides of the ball, have a perfect game, technique on point. It's going to come down to who makes the mistake. When you make a mistake, who's going to exploit the mistake? Who's going to see that? He did that. Convincingly. He did that. They always say you want that highlight reel. You just don't want to be on that end of the highlight reel. And unfortunately for him, it happens. Every player who's played the game will end up on a highlight reel on the opposite side. So hopefully that DB learns from it, goes back to the lab, puts in the work. Don't let it happen again.
All right, last up this week, we've got Mark's selection from Birdville, Cameron Jones.
Cam was the reason I went down to Crowley. I'd heard a couple things about him when I saw that it was close by, not too far, and there was a chance for me. I had my schedule freed up. I made the trip to Crowley, Texas. He's a guy that's super explosive. He's an athlete as well on both sides of the ball. He primarily played mostly defense at the cornerback position, the boundary corner, and he locked up anything on that side. Comes up with abandon to make great tackles in the open field. It was kind of a messy game for the first half, and Crowley definitely did their homework and kicked away from this guy because the previous week he had, I believe, 3 or 4 touchdowns, and he had a couple touchdowns the first week. One was a punt return, and he had a pick six as well as a couple long touchdowns. Right. This guy needs the ball in his hands at all times. But we finally got a punt, about 65 yards, one cut, even ran through a face mask and just obliterated the kicker. And I was going live on Twitter at that time, and I had to turn the camera on. My guy running right by me, high stepping in the end zone. And, he has another gear. There was a play where the quarterback kind of overshot him. And he just, that quick twitch, he has a track background as well. And he just turns it on. When he gets on the offensive side, he's their best player on both sides. So you need to know this guy from Birdville High School. He's a senior, class of 2022. Right now, he's got a little buzz from Army and I believe Nevada, several smaller schools looking at him. But, I project him definitely to be, he fits right in the slot. And he's a return menace if he gets his hands on the ball. So, college coaches should be looking at this guy, get him on your radar, must-see TV, quick twitch, elusive in the open field. And he just has that gear that most guys at the high school level just aren't born with. He wakes up like that. He gets out the bed and he's fast, just like that.
I think one of the good things about Cam is you talk about his speed and his quickness. 2 different things, by the way, right? It's the speed is one thing. That's that breakaway, right? But the quickness to be able to make tight spaces, open spaces. The beautiful thing about it is he's able to bait. We talked about it before. He's able to bait that quarterback to throw it his way, and then his breakaway to be able to close that gap is a commodity that's hard to teach. You have to have that pure athletic ability to begin with, and then you can hone those skills. And Cam's got those things, so it'll be exciting to see what he does in the future.
Well, what I saw from Cam is definitely what y'all saw. But as I look more closely into his game, um, he's definitely the best athlete on the field because you know it. If you can play DB and you can be a receiver the same way that he's doing, you already know you've got it. But I think his money is going to be a slot. He's just so quick and so fast, man. If he perfects running routes, oh man, he's gonna make some offensive coordinator very, very happy. Whatever level it is that Cam goes to, he can play at any level there is, I believe,
Yep.
because his speed and his elusiveness in the open field, and like you said, he's a special teams weapon. Um, Anywhere he goes, he's gonna make an offensive coordinator very, very happy. Just take a look at his film, and you'll see the speed that we're talking about.
One of the crazy things too is that with Aron and myself, we both have been previous All-Star game directors, and we have a group of kids that are listed as quote unquote athletes, right? Um, and a lot of other kids are like, oh man, you're not even you don't have a specific position. They just brought you here because you're just an athlete. Don't get it twisted. When you're listed as an athlete, that means you can play both sides of the ball and special teams very well. You're versatile enough that you don't have to be tied to a position because you're going to be that utility player that's going to play in multiple positions probably throughout the whole game. So it's not just enlisting as an athlete like, oh, I'm not a singled out, DB or a star wide receiver. You're an athlete. You're versatile enough to be played everywhere. And to most, coaches, that's a commodity. They want you to be that player that you can plug and play wherever they need you. So
Yeah.
that's a good
Don't
trait
take
to
don't
have.
take that as don't take that as a knock if you're labeled as an athlete, y'all. Do not take that as a knock. If you're labeled as an athlete, that's respect.
Right.
That is respect.
So, and then another thing for kids, this is part of your resume. So make this another notch. I mean, you can do this, you can do that. Once you build your resume and then you send it out to your future, employers, this is something, on a professional level. Once you get out into the world, I mean, this is the same thing. You're putting yourself together. You put in just like Legos or Connect Four. You connecting the dots. Can he do this? Oh yeah, he can run. Okay, let's put him in a combine situation. He can broad jump 36. He can, run a 4.3 or 4.4. Fit the mold, fit the measurables when it comes down to things like that. But when you turn on the tape, you see all of those things translate into one. It's like building a clay, something from clay. You mold it together, and the end result is what you see on tape.
All of y'all know, but I'm loving the analogies, by the way.
He's so philosophical.
I'm loving every analogy. I'm loving every analogy.
Man.
I love it.
Well, guys, that's all that we have on our list this week. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we close out the show?
There's going to be a couple of things, and I know I'm already looking around. Hey, but real quick, though, for the people that are watching, you notice when you guys start the show, we don't have a theme song. Maybe y'all drop a couple of hints on what you think we should come up with as a theme song. Give us a little something to intro into. Just some ideas, right? But back to the Scouts Radar. So, just like we evaluate a lot of these players, we put them on the platform to get that exposure.
Go get my popcorn.
I'm not going to call it any specific team or any specific coach, but you have to make changes, right? You have to understand your personnel. You have to understand who you're working with and what scheme is going to work for you. That also means you have to understand what scheme you're going up against and knowing if that personnel you ran with on week 1 is going to be the same personnel you're going to run with on week 2, 3, 4, etc. You have to make changes. When a specific team who you play year in and year out knocks you out the playoffs every single year, and then you have them in the regular season and you play it the same way you did the past couple of seasons where they've knocked you out, that tells me you have learned nothing. You have learned nothing as a coach. And that's a disservice to your kids. That's a disservice to your kids too. So like I said, coaches, we're adults, right? We all make mistakes too. Scouts, we all make mistakes too. But you got to be able to learn from those things and correct them. If not, you're just repeating the cycle. And what's the definition of insanity? Right?
Doing the same thing over and over again, weeks after week after week. Man, let's call it what it is. You making the same mistakes week in and week out. You ain't made an adjustment. You ain't got this kid the ball that should get the ball. You ain't made an adjustment at a quarterback position. You ain't made an adjustment at the line. Just call it what it is. Y'all need to look at the darn film. Look at Scout's radar. It's telling you what you need to do. But it's idiotic to me. I'm sorry. It's idiotic to me. Sorry, cutting you off, Mike. It's idiotic to me when you look at it and you see coaches who have a salary that are making the same mistake week in and week out with no adjustment. That's the thing that gets me. You can come in with a game plan, and y'all know this. You can come in with a game plan. They punch you in the mouth. They stop your game plan. What do you got to do? You got to make an adjustment. But when you don't make that adjustment for whatever reason it may be, maybe you're stubborn, maybe you don't feel that you have the personnel to make the change or whatever it may be. But when you don't make an adjustment, that's just idiotic.
Look, in the business world, right? I'm in manufacturing as my 9 to 5. If I make the same mistake over and over, week in and week out, you really think I'm gonna keep my job? It's the same thing that applies, right? You can't make the same mistakes. But I also know who my personnel is, and I know what strengths they have and what weaknesses they don't. So when the time comes where it's clutch, I know who to go to for certain things. Also, when there's a downtime, I know what I need to train on to get them better so that they're stronger in those areas that they were once weak. In football, and I know it's difficult, coaches, don't get me twisted. I know it's difficult. But when you look at schools like Allen High School, Lake Travis, you look at these big name schools, you watch the rotation of the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. They all get rotation in. So when something happens in a game, they know that their personnel is trained up enough to make those switches. Other schools need to take notice of that stuff because, yes, you're a high school coach. Yes, you've been doing it for X amount of years. We get it. We do. But complacency happens like that. We understand it too. And when we see it year in and year out and you don't make changes, that's a disservice to your kids. Okay, let's say it's a senior. It's a disservice to him that season. But that's going to repeat to the next year, to the junior, to the sophomore. And it's just going to keep repeating the cycle until you make that change. It's not a knock, but it's an observation. And all we're saying is you have to understand the situation that you're in and don't get tunnel vision because it's too easy to happen. And your athletes are the ones paying the price for it, not you. Because if their senior year, you'll be back next year. They won't.
In some cases, that coach wouldn't be back. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I summed it up with consistency breeds success. The consistent programs that have a consistent fan base, have a consistent program. And when I say consistent, it starts at the Pee Wee, the Little League level, onto middle school, on to high school, and they have a tradition. You know, a lot of the times these traditional powers, you know, it goes back to the Friday Night Lights type of thing. You know, you get the small towns that shut down. You got the kids that are dreaming to be those kids that they see as juniors and seniors, whether it's brothers or cousins, or, you know, fathers coaching and the kids, the ball boy. You know, you have to put it on, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes to be successful has to be some change. You know, it just goes hand in hand, but you have to learn how to tweak things in order to make them better. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, just being consistent is what you're saying. Consistently putting the right product, you know, on the field. You know what I'm saying? Let's just take, you know, South Lake Carroll for example. I mean, they lose one of the best quarterbacks, the most highly rated quarterbacks to ever come out in a class, doesn't matter what it is. And they keep on rolling. You know what I mean? And, you know, we've been talking about this guy. We talked about this guy yesterday on your Mark show, also on the DFW Blueprint. Owen Allen still don't have no offers. So what
That's
about that
crazy.
what about that
Right.
consistency? He's in his junior year. What else do we need to see? You know what I mean? We talked about variables in a combine setting and things like that, but this train continues to go north. It's not coming south. He's getting better with each carry. He's getting more consistent every time he touches the ball. His resume is starting to build. So sooner or later, somebody's going to cash in on a great player. And that's the kind of things, just an example of the consistent play, the consistent coaching that you have in a program like that. And a lot of people around the state don't believe that Southlake is going to be, this good every year. They wonder what the secret of success is. Well, sometimes you might need to take a visit over there and get eyes on them. And that's what the Scouts Radar is all about. We're getting eyes all over the state of Texas on, some of the top talent, giving them the exposure that they need. Shout out to my guy Spiced Up Productions, because we've been running hand in hand. Me and this guy have been running around, and Mike and Ariel have been running around. I tapped in with these guys Friday just to see what's going on with them. This Thursday, I'm going to Keller, West Mesquite. And then Friday, on board Tascasita, then the guy is going down.
Oh, Lordy Jesus.
H-Town versus North Texas. Boys already been talking. B Spice, one of my guys from the Tascasita, saw the pictures and he hit me up.
Oh, man.
So boys is already on it. You already know. I'm just a little plug there. Shout out to 940 Elite podcast. My guy's killing it over there. It's got us crispy like Kentucky Fried Chicken. So it's going down.
Hey, I got a football question for y'all before we close out.
Shoot.
We've played the game, so we've seen it from the field.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're looking at it from a scout's eye, meaning we're standing on the sidelines, we're up in the press box. We're not that couch coach or the parent sitting in the stands. We're actually looking at the game.
Right.
Being that we've done that in the positions that we've been in and the position that we're in now, do y'all think it is really, I think I know y'all's answer. Do y'all think it is really difficult for a coach to make a change or an adjustment in the game?
Well, in today's high school arena, there's so many variables that go into it, and some of those variables aren't on the field necessarily. If you get where I'm going with it,
I feel you.
There are other things that play into it in the larger programs as well. Even some of the small towns where you just don't have, people there to break up the monotony, if you want to call it. But I think that, sometimes you get comfortable with winning and you don't want to make a change. You think that this has worked. And, what happens when you don't change your oil? It gets dirty and grimy and it messes up the rest of your car, right? So you have to change it every 3,000 miles or, synthetic every 700 miles or whatever like that.
It's
philosophical.
Right. Well, I'm breaking it down.
By Castro.
Right. Like I said the other week, we're kicking the actual factual. So this is what we do. I tell people all the time that I don't watch the game like a couch potato. I look at it. I would be a fan at these games, but now I get to do this and break it down. And I just, I was that kid that stayed up on Monday nights after I was supposed to go to bed, and I could tell my dad what Drew Pearson did. I could tell him what Roger Staubach did, Terry Bradshaw, and those guys. I might be dating myself a little bit, but I knew the stats and everything. I had books on Tony Dorsett. I studied the game as a kid. And
I noticed he's talking about them Cowboys, though. He's talking about them Cowboys.
Well, okay,
we're gonna switch the game up. I'm
gonna talk about Bum Phillips and Love You Blue and my guy Earl Campbell, the Tyler Rose. You know what I'm saying? The point of it is when you pay attention to detail, that's with anything in the professional arena or with football and coaches. You know what I'm saying? And I will say this about coaching staffs: that continuity has to be well oiled as well. The coaching staffs, that they know each other. A coach. We're on the sidelines. I'm a sideline guy unless it's cold and raining or something.
So, Mark, I'm gonna cut you off. Wait, right there. What you saying, and I'm glad you brought that up. Shouldn't it be with you saying continuity and everything like that? Isn't that the job of the coaches upstairs in the box to be relaying down to the coaches what they can see? And that's how some of those changes can be made, correct?
Right. But here's the thing, and I've been a head coach, on the 7-on-7 level middle school, Pee Wee leagues. I could be the head coach, but I'm only as good as my assistants. If I don't let those guys do their job and I try to be a dictator, then my program isn't going to be successful. I can't be the offensive and defensive coordinator and be the head coach and the special teams guy.
But take that. So, like I said earlier, it's about knowing your personnel, right? That's just not the athletes on your team. You got to know what your coaches can coach, what they know. Having a coach who doesn't know the position, and that's why kids on the team will call him a YouTube coach, because that's where he's learning the position, right? You can't have that. You can't. You have to understand your personnel. But the problem with it is they don't want to make adjustments. Do you remember in youth ball when a play would fumble out or somebody would false start or the play didn't go right or all the scenarios you can think of? The youth coach would always say, run it again, run it again, run it again. That's what we're starting to see in high school. Run it again, run it again. Hey, coach, you ran it to that side 5 times. They shut it down every time. Matter of fact, for loss of yards. You're going to keep hitting it? You're not going to make an adjustment? Switch up the line a little bit? I mean, you got all these things to take into consideration, but they're running it again. So you're not making the changes that you need to. You may think that you're making the changes that are necessary, but if you're going to watch film and you're only watching the athletes that you're coaching and you're not understanding the scenarios that your coaches are calling, you have to make an adjustment. Adjustments need to be made. It's okay to make mistakes, but you have to understand the mistakes that are made and close the gap. Because if not, you're continuing the cycle. And that's not a good thing.
Well, that's where the coaching staff has to be strong and know your role.
Yeah.
What role do you play?
Yeah.
Right.
Each coordinator, each position coach has to be the top at their position. They have to run the table at their position. So when that number is called and we're in a certain situation, it's 3rd and 12. What's the call? So your position guy has to know what he's doing within the scheme that you're running. It's 3rd and 12. And I'm in a spread offense. What's the defense? What kind of lineup are they giving? Are they got a robber coming off the edge? Are they playing cover 2? Are they playing bump and run? Is the tight end gonna be open? Like I said at the beginning, I've been watching these games, and I see kids that I know that have the look, and sometimes they're just not getting the ball in the proper position. But that's the coach's job, is to put you in position to succeed, and then you have to go and lay the blueprint and execute. That's what the player's job.
But let me say this. We had this whole little section we talk about coaches and schemes and what they understand with these coordinators, athletes. Do you really expect your coaches to put you in the game in key situations if you're not consistent in practice? You got to be able to, they say practice like you play, right? That means every snap, regardless if it's practice, regardless if it's a walkthrough, you have to have the mental reps. You have to have the continuation from the mental reps into the gameplay. You have to be consistent. You have to want to be in the game at all times. You can't come just game day because you got new uniforms on, your crisp. You got your girl in the stands, all that stuff. It doesn't work like that. You got to put the work in at practice. And I promise you this, if you put the work in at practice and you're consistent, it's going to be in a position where the coaches cannot afford to not put you in. You have to be that guy. Before we end this episode, I do want to say something in terms of these school districts. And so you guys know athletes, you always say, well, how can I get you to come to my game? So what we do is at the beginning of the season, we email the school districts and we let them know that we're going to be hitting them up the week of the game to let them know we're going to be in attendance. On Mondays, whatever game of the week we go to, we're going to email the athletic director and or coordinator or athletic secretary and let them know we're going to be in attendance. School districts, I know you're listening too. We are not a recruitment service, period. We are not a recruitment service. We don't charge your athletes for exposure. We don't charge your school or your coaches for us to attend your games. We don't. All we ask for is a little bit of hospitality when we show up. Let us do our thing. We're going to gather information on the athletes. And we're going to send it to the coaches across the nation. That's what we do. And we do it for free. We are not a recruitment service. Let me repeat that one more time. We are not a recruitment service. Simple as that. We're here to help your athletes. Yes, it's fantastic you have athletes that have Division I, Division II offers. Great. Congratulations. But you have other student athletes that are on that field that deserve to go to college as well. All the way to NAIA. Let us help them get to college for free. Should they choose not to play college ball when they get there? Great. Let that sport that got them the attention be the vehicle to get them there. We're here to help. We're not here to hinder anything. That's all I wanted to say.
And then, you know, before we get out of here, shout out to all the coaches in the state of Texas, because coaching in the state of Texas is a pressure cooker. It's a lot of long nights, a lot of long weekends. You know, some of these guys are up there from their families this whole season on Sundays. I know guys that are up there watching film, getting the play book ready, getting the game plan ready going into the next week. It's 7 days a week for these head coaches at all levels. It's a grind. So, you know, it's not a thing about being critical, because those guys work their tails off to get where they are. You know, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and Ben was there as well. 17 games in the state of Texas is a run when you make it to the playoffs. That's 17 weeks you're away from your family. That's 17 weeks of the year that you are dedicated to. So these coaches and these coaching staffs are dedicated to their communities. They're dedicated to the schools. They're dedicated to their players. And, you know, they work in an environment that's heavy pressure, you know, under a lot of pressure. If you can coach in the state of Texas, you can coach anywhere. And that's why a lot of these spouses
too. Their families are holding it down.
Kids.
Yeah. Because it's a grind. I mean, it's not just Monday through Friday. You know,
it's 7 days a week.
It's 7 days a week, and it's a grind. Yeah. I got a couple of real close friends of mine that are high school coaches, and their wives post up on Facebook, well, season's beginning. I'll see my husband in X amount of weeks, because they know that it's a grind. And Mark is exactly right, especially in the state of Texas. Now, Cali's the same way for all these big states that are football prominent. Like, it's a grind. It's hats off to you guys. You know, so don't take it personal. We go off on you guys a little bit because, you know, it's the Scouts Radar. We talk about everything.
Right. I agree. B Spice?
Well, that's you guys. I don't have anything to add. You guys said about everything that you can. So we appreciate
we're a little long-winded today.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone tuning in to another episode of the Scouts Radar from Mark Henry, R.L. Martin, and Mike Morris. I am Ben Spicer, and we'll see you back next week for another episode.